Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of our listeners from all over the world. I'm Barry Muller, hosting the RevAmp podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with us. Her name is Olga. Olga, tell us about who you are and where you work.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Barry.
Of course.
So my name is Olga, and I run revenue operations at a company called TigerConnect here in Los Angeles.
Cool, love that.
A little bit maybe about myself, right? I've been in this revenue operations, revenue marketing world for about 15 years, and originally started on a marketing ops and marketing technology world. Just through natural curiosity, my natural curiosity and my CMO's transitioned to revenue marketing because had a lot of questions on what's working, how do we get alignment with sales, how do we know where to invest our marketing dollars and what channels, etc. To support the revenue growth. So, and just organically went from marketing ops into revenue marketing, and from there into revenue operations. I'm now running revenue operations at TigerConnect. I've been here only for about 6 months, and this is a new team. This is a new structure for the company. So actually, the first 6 months we focused on rebuilding a lot of foundation when it comes to processes and technology and tools and people, and building to scale.
Cool, great. And how large is TigerConnect? How many employees are there?
We are around 300 people now.
300. Okay, cool. So I have a lot of questions. I want to talk about TigerConnect, but I also want to talk about, before we get there, about your career journey. You mentioned that you did marketing operations and you went to you went to revenue marketing, correct? So maybe you could tell our listeners more about what is revenue marketing. It's not such a popular profession, meaning I don't see so many people on LinkedIn with that in their headline. So tell us a bit more about that, and let me know if I'm just looking at the wrong profiles, and that's why I don't see
that. Yeah, let's make it a buzzword. Why not? Let's start the trend. So remember many years ago, many years ago, when Marketo was fairly new, when it was just Marketo and Pardot, no one knew what they were doing. Everyone just thought it's about email marketing, right? We were called different names. Marketing ops actually surfaced maybe like in 2013. Before that, we were demand generation, lead generation, marketing nurture. At some point, we were ninjas and growth hackers, whatever you call it, right? No one knew what the name should be. Then we sort of landed on marketing operations, and what it meant is managing budgets, tools, processes, people, to make sure this entire marketing motion, the go-to-market motion, flawlessly works. We are able to generate demand, generate leads, wash them, nurture them, score them, and reach them, and then put them in front of sales and make it so that sales know what to do with them. And then we can also track the journey after a salesperson picks up that lead. So marketing ops evolved from like this first part of making sure a salesperson gets the lead. That was like part one of marketing operations. There was those famous memes out there when marketing was like throwing leads over the fence to sales. I remember those memes. And then we went to part two, where marketing actually wanted to be part of the process. What happens to a lead after a salesperson picks it up? And this is where the revenue marketing started to gain momentum. We wanted to understand the channels that produce those leads, the channels that the leads were engaged with, which are more likely to close, which are more likely to convert into the pipeline, further into the pipeline. What would be the conversion rates from your top of the funnel lead and then into the closed one. Also looking not just for the new business, right? Not for the leads that are incoming and are your new customers, new prospective customers, but also for customers. All of these questions were raised by CMOs and marketing leaders. And that's how marketing ops started also participating, not just in the lead management, but also in the opportunity management, in the sales methodology, in sales enablement. Hey, we need to be able to train salespeople. We need to make sure they understand how to follow up with the leads, with the contacts, how they understand the campaigns, they understand the marketing motions, they understand how to disposition those leads and how to send them back. So it's, from like the top of funnel lead management going into the opportunity management, sales enablement, sales methodology, marketing ops just made its way there. Also, in parallel, answering revenue questions. Marketing has a lot of data because of the tech stack, right? Super rich tech stack that pretty much every company now has, the cookies, the tokens, the tracking thingies everywhere. Budgets, and we want to make sure that we invest marketing dollars in the right channels and the right programs. So just working on all of that, like holistically, means revenue marketing to me. It's not just implementing tools. It's not just rolling out processes, but it's like looking at the end game. The end game is always revenue, looking at what's working and why we should be doing this, and working in alignment with all the cross-functional departments.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then revenue operations, would that just be all of what you said with customer success? Or does it mean something else to you?
Yes, revenue operations, many definitions. To me, it is the rhythm of the business, basically. Aligning and centralizing all of the operations in the company to make sure it's one flawless process from top to bottom and going into the customer journey, sort of like rinse and repeat. That everyone knows their part, that there's data flawlessly flying through the entire process and is reportable. The data is accessible at any point of decision. Marketing, sales, client success leaders, finance, super importantly, looking at the same set of data. So to make sure we orchestrate the entire buyer's journey, customer journey, using the tools where we need to use the tools, implementing automations where we need to implement automations, letting salespeople sell, letting buyers buy, which is also important, working on the speed to lead for marketing and sales, working on the right marketing channels and dollars, working with finance on reconciling the actual bookings and the revenue. So it's this orchestration, also owning the enablement function. I like to talk about Switzerland. We are independent. RevOps shouldn't be sitting under marketing or sales, right? It should actually holistically look into the entire process, identifying the pain points, and then working cross-functionally with other departments. Now, TigerConnect, sales operations, sales enablement, analytics are under revenue operations. Marketing ops, client success ops are dotted line, but we are in a matrix structure, right? And we do report to CFO.
Okay, cool.
Which I think is super important, because that RevOps and finance alignment is just the cornerstone. I mean, we can forecast many different numbers, but if those forecasting numbers do not align with what finance is putting to the board, it's all smoke and mirrors. So it's one single source of truth that we're working off now.
Love that. And then, is there a CRO at TigerConnect?
No, we do not have a CRO.
Okay, so yeah, so then it definitely makes sense for the CFO. But even with the CRO, I'm sure you would want to work together as much with the CFO. Absolutely.
I mean, they eventually control the budget, so you want to be friends with them.
Yeah, great call. that alone, we could we could stop the podcast now.
Be friends with your CFO.
Yeah, it's a win-win. So there's a lot we can unpack. I think maybe you could talk to us about the journey of before being at TigerConnect, and you could go into as detailed if you knew you were going to be opening up a whole new function or department that they didn't have from before the interview. Can talk to us even about what the hiring team was thinking about when they were hiring you. So like, did they recognize the opening? Did they recognize the potential for a specific RevOps function, or if that happened by accident? Then I think we could even go quickly into the actual practicalness, which both you and I love, and I think our listeners really like, is how to do RevOps, how to build your RevOps team, and how to execute quickly and scale in a scalable way.
Yeah. I like that you said, what if it happened by accident? Can you really imagine that? Like putting a new team, a new structure, a new function in a company just happens by accident and raises questions. Well, our executives really realize the pain and the need to centralize operations, to have this one team responsible for the revenue and go-to-market tech stack, for the entire lead to opportunity management, sales methodology, client success journeys, to centralize it. When you have marketing ops, sales ops, someone else, finance working on it, then it just creates so many discrepancies. And then you have your marketing leader coming to a meeting with one set of data, sales leader will come with another forecast, and client success has a completely different set of numbers. So when it happens, you definitely get that sponsorship, right, from your executives. No one wants to have fights about the data and where the truth is. So that was very quickly realized. I'm not sure how quickly, but that was realized before even I joined the company, and therefore the position was opened. We talk about RevOps. There are a lot of podcasts about RevOps there. There are a lot of resources, but we do see them because we are in it. Honestly, if you look around, not that many companies do have a revenue operations structure. They might have or talk about the revenue operations approach, but when you actually look into the org chart, it's still on the whiteboard. It's still not implemented, right? So it's still just in their minds. Not that many companies actually have a team, centralized team for the revenue operations. When TigerConnect approached me and they revealed that this is what they would be going with, I was very happy, because it's just not that many companies I would see there. It's a great opportunity for me would be to build the function, a great challenge, right? To build the function and really, show what I've learned at all other companies, using my experience, using the support from the executives, the support from the team, build a scalable function at TigerConnect. So when I joined, sales operations and sales analytics were moved under revenue operations. At the same day that I joined, we also hired a sales enablement leader. So sales enablement also resides under revenue operations. And we already had pretty strong leaders for marketing operations that we immediately began working super closely with. There was some technical debt. There was some business debt, right? So some of the pain points were just sitting there and waiting for us to come in and start attacking them. So the first couple of months, we had our projects. We were very busy. There was no time for, how they say, like, learn, activate, watch, and then put together a plan. We didn't have time for any of that. We had to just hit the ground running. There were a number of pretty urgent projects that we had to address and start building for the future. So immediately we put together this rhythm of the business, cadence of meetings, a bi-weekly meeting with all the revenue leaders, with CMO, CFO, SVP of sales, and some key players cross-functionally. When we look at the one set of data, it's one dashboard that represents the entire funnel, from lead generation to pipeline to forecasting to closed won to at-risk analysis for the customers to churn analysis for customers. It's a bi-weekly call that I run, and that allows us to look, at the same set of data, have this one single source of truth. And depending on the month, depending on the time of the year, we would have marketing people present there, and they would talk about some motions or events that they ran or campaigns that they ran, or we would have sales leaders talk about the forecasting and the pain points. If we're seeing the declining number at the top of the funnel, we'll talk about how to address it. So it is still work in progress. I cannot say that I'm super proud of how it looks now, but it's definitely has been a lot of progress made on the data points that we look, on the conversations that we're having, how we're able to pull in people from other teams to address the issues that we're seeing in 22. I really am hoping to make it this true rhythm of the business, right? The entire funnel plus customer journey, talking about the forecasting, talking about churn renewals, looking at marketing programs, marketing channels, getting feedback from BDRs, getting feedback from sales. And then at the same time, what we will be doing is launching the forecasting cadence reviews. So it's going to be really prescriptive approach for sales and sales leaders and sales reps. Hey, every Monday, sales reps submit their own forecast. Every Tuesday, sales leaders review that forecast. Every Wednesday, sales leaders submit that forecast to SVP of sales. So it's going to be really prescriptive. Every day you do this. So what I learned is that you can run a lot of enablement sessions. Most of the salespeople forget about the training in 2 weeks. So you have to be really on point of putting together a day in life of a salesperson, a day in life of marketing ops person, right? We start our day with this dashboard, this tool you use to dial, this tool you use to send an email. This is how you forecast in Salesforce. I know it might become boring, but to grow and scale the company, you really have to adhere to all of these practices: the pipeline management, sales methodology, the processes and the cadences that every BDR has to go through with every lead that they receive, or client success playbooks, right? We have to be diligent about keeping those processes going and making sure there is a feedback loop. So just tightening all that, creating prescriptions, prescribing the days in life for sales and marketing. That's the goal for 22, and that's what I've been hearing that most companies are doing. It's where they see success.
Right. Okay. Wow. That was a lot to unpack there. So thank you for that. Let's go. I'm trying to think what to hit first. So it sounds like are you leading these playbook initiatives, or is that considered the sales enablement, I guess, or is that a VP of sales and then you're working with him to make sure that the VP of sales gets it done, and you're in more of a project management role? Let's go there first.
It takes a village, right? It's not one person, and if it's one person, then it's a problem.
Right.
So it does take a village. We do have sales enablement function, which is their core responsibility, but we want to make sure that it's aligned with the sales methodology and the sales process. And we are not sitting next to salespeople just because we're sort of all over remote now every day. So aligning with the sales leaders, sales executives, when it comes to playbooks on the client side, client success, CSMs, interviewing them, figuring out what's really going to work. So There's a lot of like trial and error until we land on the right one, but it's building frameworks is a cross-functional like matrix exercise. Everyone needs to be abreast. Like talk about client success, there's marketing also involved. Like CSMs cannot work in a silo without marketing. Marketing is running customer engagement, customer renewal programs, right? So there's that communication going on. Like say if you're a customer, you're being bombarded by like an outreach cadence from a client success person and a marketing, right? So it's not the best customer experience. So that's where you need to bring several people when I'm talking about the rhythm of the business and pulling people that are needed to be pulled, right? So sometimes it's client success and marketing. Sometimes it's sales operations and enablement, depending on the motion, depending on the playbook, depending on what we're trying to solve for. RevOps is this orchestrator because we are sort of like, again, Switzerland, sitting and watching what's happening, and we know the company goals, we know what's going on in marketing, what are the major programs, major initiatives, targets, etc. We know sales quotas, where are they at, we know the forecasting, we know the pipeline. So we're there to make sure that everything is flawless and that everyone is aware of the major initiatives.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I'm sure the impact will be very clear as it grows and as it's going on. So where can we go? So I think that one question specifically I had was, do you use templates like that you find online or from friends for these playbooks? Is there like a specific template you use like that you resource, or it's all built from scratch?
I'm a huge
Built
believer.
From scratch with your company, obviously.
Well, I'm a huge believer in not reinventing the wheel. if you so Google it. If you have a problem that cannot be Googled and there is like no blog, no infographic, no webinar, no podcast, no video about it, it's just it's strange. Like ask yourself, is it really a problem? Like if other companies are not talking about it. I'm also on Slack and multiple of revenue operations, sales enablement channels. So there are a lot of discussions there. You know, just by researching, you can find a lot of, maybe if you don't get a template, your list will get a lot of direction of where you should be going, right? So there's just so much great content there. By using and juggling different resources, different vendors, like everyone, pretty much every vendor in RevTech stack has thought leadership resources. So just juggling several of them, you can put together the template that works for you. It's not like one size fits all. It's not like you can get something from online and implement it in your company. It will have to be tailored. It will have to be customized. But this is where you do your homework, you research, you can ask on Slack channels how other companies are approaching and doing it. And that's going to give you a lot of directions, a lot of assumptions immediately, and you use it to build your own templates. And then, of course, you know, being in this field for many years, you do have knowledge and understanding what's worked before or didn't, and why it didn't. So that's also helpful.
Right. Yeah. Experience definitely impactful. Can you name 2 or 3 of your favorite resources, whether it be a Slack group or a blog?
So in terms of Slack, it's RevOps Co-op. That's a pretty big one. There's always, I'm looking at it now, a lot of discussions every day. It's always pretty active. When it comes to other content, so I like Cluster. We do use Cluster here for forecasting. This is an AI tool that helps with forecasting and pipeline management. They're great on their content. They have been conducting a lot of interviews, so you can listen to those. They also have like calculators and white papers, infographics, and their competitor Clary, which is also great at thought leadership and produces great ebooks and great white papers that I love to read.
Cool. Thank you. So I think another interesting thing that we could dive into that's pretty practical are the data points that you are tracking. So I understand we mentioned a few of them, but it could either be like as detailed as SDR to AE handoff, to what points would you look around that? So we could talk about the stages and go deep dive into one of the points like SDR to AE handoff. That's something that's on my mind based off of previous podcasts that we recently had. Or it could just we could talk about high level of the different opportunities and where you look are tracking as much data as possible. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So take it away.
So when I joined TigerConnect, like funnel was the most popular word in my vocabulary. It was about funnel, building the funnel, tracking the funnel, understanding the funnel. How do we look at the funnel? Everything was about funnel. So for me, it all comes to that, like, hey, what is your buyer's process and how it can be systematized, meaning put into a tool in a reportable manner. So we track our funnel. We do track our funnel now. From an inquiry to a lead to a hot lead, we do have a couple of definitions of hot leads, the ones that are hand raisers and the ones that are organically became hot leads. Then, following the sales process, we send them to BDRs, and then we'll look at how BDRs are working then, what's the BDR process, how they hand off to sales, what's the acceptance rate, what the conversion rate, and then eventually closed one. So we're following the funnel. There are like 7 stages, I believe, from an inquiry to lead to MQL, AQL, sales accepted lead, stage 0 opportunity, stage 1 opportunity. Those are just the stages of the funnel. They can be different. Again, at my previous companies, the stages were different. It doesn't really matter. Once you understand that funnel is a thing, it's like plug and play at pretty much every company. And it answers a lot of questions. Hey, marketing's job is to generate demand at the top, right? Bring traffic to the website, have those webinar registrants register and attend. Then it's this handoff from a marketing to a BDR or a salesperson. And you need to track that. Have they accepted it? Do they see it? Like, first of all, can they see it in Salesforce? How do we know that they can see it in Salesforce? How do they send the signal back that they are working the lead, that they're qualifying this lead? How do then they send it to a sales director, right, or sales rep, and the sales rep accepts it, and then we track the opportunity management. So this funnel, it's not just the stages and the metrics and the KPIs and targets, it's the process that surrounds it. It's the tools, the automation, sales enablement. A lot goes into this. Once you start unpacking like every stage, you would see that there's Marketo, there's Lean Data, there's Zoom Info, there's Seamless, there's Salesforce, there's Gong, there's Outreach, there are a lot. So we do have a flow chart that outlines the funnel. And then the processes that are human processes, this is what a person does, a marketing or salesperson or BDR, and this is what the tool does. This is the automation. And then when a person and automation meet, and this is when the person and a tool meet, and that's what they do. So we track that and we built that. And it's working. And the plan for 22 would be to add more color to it. So to understand what programs are working on every stage of the funnel. Something that is bringing traffic to the website might not be something that helps you to move opportunity from stage 3 to stage 4, right? Or be that last leg to close and up. So understanding what works on every stage of the funnel, how to get it into a report. And an actionable insight. That's my plan for 22.
Cool. Love that. Are there any specific maybe benchmarks, or I don't know if it's statistically significant, the benchmark of just your company, but any data that you could share? For example, one of our recent guests, Matt, shared that 24 from his experience was the best amount of opportunities an account executive should handle a quarter. So that was like a cool stat that we could share on our podcast. Is there something that, I know this is from left field, but anything like that that you think our listeners would be interested in hearing that maybe you recently discovered?
Well, cannot say anything about TigerConnect, but at my previous company, it was 35.
Hmm.
And this is like maybe 10 too many. And this is actually a good number that you need to watch. And this is like these tools and the reports allow you to see that. Is that a headcount problem? So if you're seeing that your average sales director in an average quarter manages 35 opportunities at a time, and then 30% of them get stuck in the mid stages, is that a headcount problem? So yeah, it might be a sales methodology, sales process marketing problem as well, but is it too many for a sales director, sales rep to manage that number of opportunities? So, but it really depends. It depends on the velocity, right? It depends on the conversion rate. If you were an SMB, and in our SMB, sales cycle is like 28 days. So within a month, we generate a lead and we close it. Right. So there's no really like long-term forecasting. This is where we use AI for the forecasting in SMB. But for an SMB rep, because it's just such a quick turnaround, and it's a pretty small average deal size and very standard contracts and a standard product, they can. But if we're talking about enterprise and complex deals, so even 24 might be too much, right? Then you would want to for them to focus on your actual like whale accounts. So it really depends on the quota, on the velocity, on the complexity of the deals, on the product packaging, etc. But we do have our benchmarks for conversion rates. So using historical data and the win rates and knowing sales performance, knowing their quotas, in that funnel, we plug in the target conversion rates. And that's how we calculate the targets for each stage of the funnel. Because like funnel is great, but if you don't have targets that cannot be measured, meaning cannot be improved, right? Cannot be managed, funnel is useless. So you got to have those targets. You got to have the KPIs for every stage. And how do you define them? How do you calculate them? Based on the benchmark, the industry averages, and based on your historical performance, and based on your assumptions going in 22, right? So we have, for example, a 25% conversion rate from a lead to an opportunity. And then from a BDR generated opportunity to sales accepted opportunity, 68%. That's what we're plugging based on the historical performance and based on our assumptions for 22. We're going to be generating more high quality leads. We're going to be driving them to submit demo forms. So that's why we want them to be a 25% conversion from a lead to an opportunity, right? So knowing that, you put together your targets, your KPIs. But I like the 24 number for the opportunities. But I would say the caveat, it really depends on who you are,
right?
what you sell.
And that's what makes the RevOps function so useful. That it's not just the template, it's not just what you find online. So Olga, I had a really fun time in this conversation, in this interview. So thanks so much for agreeing to be a guest. And I hope we get to stay in touch.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Yeah, best of luck.